So I mean, I'm on your LinkedIn, and you've done a lot. Like, I don't know where to start. But if we take it all the way back, like, what was growing up like? Where did you grow up?
So I think I'm one of the few people who had like a very interesting upbringing, because obviously I have heritage and I have direct ties to Ghana because I was born in Ghana. So obviously I grew up in Ghana, then moved to the UK. So I experienced both sides, and I guess my perspective, because of my upbringing here, really made me see things differently moving to the UK. So I think for me, that family tie is definitely something that I've used along the way to sort of use as motivation. Because again, as an immigrant, like your parents, their path to success was completely different from someone who might typically be, born in the UK or white, especially if they immigrated. So I think it's one of those things that for me, when I look back, I'm like, look, my parents sacrificed so much for me. I can't just waste it. I go and make sure I make something of it. So it's definitely something that's always at the back of my mind. But yeah, in terms of upbringing, grew up in Ghana, obviously moved to the UK. Education wise, I studied, let's take it quite back. So GCSE, again, I studied business because my dad pushed me to study business. I wanted to actually go down the engineering route, study physics, but I guess my dad knew what was best. So yeah, I ended up graduating. Obviously, I did pretty well in GCSEs, then did my A level. I ended up getting 3 Bs. So A levels, I studied business, economics, and sociology. Then I ended up moving to Aston University to study international business and management, which I graduated 2018. So are we going to jump into the university aspect yet, or are we still talking about sort of, how we got?
Before we get to the uni aspect, what age did you move to the UK?
So that was quite young. I'd say maybe 9-ish.
Okay, cool.
So obviously I still got to experience Ghana for quite a bit. And every time I come back, like I said, for me, I have strong ties to it. So
yeah, got it. And that transition, obviously, that's a big move at such a young age. How did you find that? Was it tricky, or did you move into, because you went Aston Uni, did you move to Birmingham at 9 or?
No. So London pretty much has been home. So that's why I have family as well. So when I'm not, obviously before going to university, before moving to Birmingham, I was in London, pretty much where I grew up. But it wasn't inner city London. It was almost Essex. So sort of Barking and Dagenham. But yeah.
Cool. All right. And then, so you did your A levels, you wanted to do physics, but your dad kind of convinced you to do business. And that went through to uni, right? Because you did business admin in uni.
So yes, I studied international business and management at Aston University. Even my journey to Aston in itself is it's crazy. So initially, I applied to University of Manchester. That was where I wanted to go. I wanted to study innovation, sustainability, and entrepreneurship, which is very niche because I happen to come from a family of entrepreneurs. My brother has his own business, my dad has his own business. So that was what I wanted to do. Yeah. But unfortunately, apparently I wasn't smart enough to get into University of Manchester. I think the requirements were A, B, B, but I got 3 Bs. So it meant I had to go into clearing because I didn't want to go into my insurance, which is Coventry. So I ended up obviously dialing through clearing. Aston, I actually called them 4 times before I finally got in. So I got rejected 3 times on the phone. Then the 4th attempt, they finally said, okay, we have a space for international business and management with the placement year, which is what I ended up doing.
That is cool. So it's a 4-year course, 3 years with placement.
Yes. So for me, I also understood early on how challenging it is to get a graduate job.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put myself in the best position, and I knew it would mean, finding work experience along the way. So that 4-year one made so much sense to me because if I got to work in my 3rd year and still got paid while working, once I come out of university, I'm in a much better space compared to some of my peers. So.
Amazing. And then when you were going into uni, did you have like a strategy, a game plan? Because I see you are part of lots of different societies. basketball, empowerment society, so on and so forth. What was your game plan going in?
First year, I didn't have a game plan. First year was just have fun. I think I later clocked onto how the university system works in my second year. So again, first year, yeah, it was just go to university, be sociable, like meet as many people as you can, because obviously your network really matters. So it was just trying to immerse myself in that university experience. Basketball, because again, I've been playing basketball for 9, 10 years. So it was something that I was passionate about. So I was always going to do it either way. But yeah, so joining those societies, it was more of a way for me to meet people rather than obviously having a strategy going into uni saying, okay, I know how to leverage these societies to, work my way around it to be beneficial for me when I graduate. So that was on my mindset. But second year, I think second year was when everything sort of switched and I was like, you know what? I've been here for quite some time. I understand how it works. So I'm going to game the system to my advantage.
Nice. Got it. And then where did you do your placement as part of your degree?
So I did my placement at AT&T. So for those of you who don't know, AT&T is one of the largest telecommunication companies in the world. So they happen to have an operation in London for the international part of the business. So mainly focused around like cloud services in the sales team. So that's when I did my placement.
Were their offices near Victoria?
Yes.
So, opposite that building, there's a school.
Crazy.
I went there for sixth form, innit?
Okay. See,
Yeah.
It's funny because we had a lot of initiatives running through that school. I forgot the name, but we did like volunteering, we did mentoring sessions. There was even a work experience week, which I was also able to contribute to. So that school has been so pivotal to my development. They probably have an idea. They did more for me than I actually did for them. So it was definitely, that school was sort of like my first time volunteering and really having an impact and passion about own careers and speaking to students about their career. So that was big for me.
Yeah. That's cool, man. And in that building, I don't know if they're still there, EDF Trading.
Yes.
So, when I was doing sixth form there, EDF Trading did like a scholarship with the school.
Okay.
And so I managed to get that, and it was like if you contribute like as a volunteer outside of school and in school, you can apply. I applied and I managed to get it, and then I hustled that into like an internship on EDF Trading. So it's a small world, man.
It is small world. But yeah, AT&T really did a lot. So there was this part of the business called AT&T Mentoring Academy, or AT&T Aspire Mentoring Academy. I later on sort of became the face of that program because I was just passionate about sort of speaking to students based on my experience in university and understanding, look, I didn't have this advantage. I didn't have anyone to speak to. So if I want to sort of pave the way for the people behind me, then I have to start getting early and start speaking to them. So yeah, that was big.
That's cool, man. And so you do the placement 1 year full-time work practically. What type of work were you doing?
So with the placement, I guess it gave me my first experience in tech. Part of my role was really working with the product management team. So we had a lot of sort of projects ongoing outside the UK, which were new offices sort of being built around like Mexico to Rio Central Park, some of our offices in Germany. So I was kind of like the bridge in that pipeline between the project management team in the UK and the people actually working in those office spaces. So anything that needed to be sort of sent to the premises in order to facilitate the development of those buildings, it went through me. So I sort of put through all the processes, anything that was needed. So it could be, okay, we need about 10 computers and routers and sort of systems for the sales team there. I make sure I facilitate everything. Obviously, keep an eye on the deadline because again, with businesses, we're very tight when it comes to deadline, and make sure that I deliver everything on time to enable the projects going smoothly. So yeah, it was more of a bridge between the project management team and the team abroad as well.
Got it. And then, so you do that 1 year, and then what happens after that? You go back to uni. Do they give you an option to join full time, or how does that work?
So that was something that I really wanted to do, the conversion. I actually worked at AT&T for 15 months. So after my placement of 12 months, my manager wanted me to stay for that summer as well and work for them. Unfortunately, because my role was a very siloed role, something that they came up with because there was headcount, AT&T didn't really hire graduates. So it is, regardless how much work I put in, and obviously they wanted me to work throughout the summer, it just wasn't there. So unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to convert like other people who might work in, say, investment bank. So yeah, go back to final year. I think even with AT&T, I'm very thankful in hindsight that I chose to do it, because I was very fortunate for I had so many opportunities for placement year to choose from, and I know a lot of people didn't. So one thing that haunted me at that time was I got an opportunity to work in Nike Hilversum, which is their European headquarters, and I'm big when it comes to Nike. Everyone knows me. And unfortunately, I didn't take that. I ended up working at AT&T, which played a huge part in my career path right now because of the exposure in tech. So whilst at first I felt like, that was a big mistake, I should have gone with the Nike route because it would have been a lot more exciting. I would have met more people. When I look back, I'm like, what, AT&T sort of shaped the trajectory of my career. So yeah.
Got it. Okay, so then we fast forward, you graduate, you get your degree, and then your first job out of uni after you graduate is Facebook, right? How do you do that?
It's crazy. So for me, my mindset, even on placement was I'm going back to university. I have 15 months available to me. I'm trying to amass as much experience as I can so that when I put my CV in front of a recruiter, they have no way to turn me down by giving me like an interview. So that was my mindset. So I remember every time I applied for a role and I got rejected, like I'd be upset the first few days and I'd be like, you know what? It meant I need more experience. So what can we do? And obviously it's not just fishing for experience, but actually still gaining experience in avenues and areas that I was actually interested in, i.e. volunteering. So that was my mindset. Because I remember I applied to Amazon, got to the final stage for Amazon Web Services for a summer internship. And then I got rejected. I was so upset because I felt like I deserved it. So again, I completely switched gears. I was like, right, okay, this recruiter said I'm not good enough. Okay, what can I do? How can I, buffer my CV in such a way that once I get to final year, I'm in a good position, because I understand graduate jobs are difficult. So I think the first thing for me that I did as soon as I got back from placement year, I booked a session with my career rep. And I gave them my CV. I was like, look, critique it. What do you need me to change? So that was a conversation that I wanted to have early on because, I had the experience applying for placement. So now, like I mentioned, I knew how to game the system. So I booked loads of interviews. I remember I interviewed with one of the heads of IBM. She came to a university and I just met with her. I just wanted her to interview me. So if I get into such an environment, I knew what I was going to do. So yeah, when I came, I was very strategic. I was very intentional. I had an Excel sheet of all the companies I wanted to work with, deadlines. And I was like, you know what? Okay, what do they need? Once I apply, I tick it off. So I was very thorough about it. I applied very early as well. So I actually got an interview for Goldman Sachs.
Oh, nice.
I got to the stage, yes, for the corporate services and real estate division of the business. And it was crazy because I had no interest in investment banking. I'm sorry to you and your audience, but I had no interest in investment banking. But Goldman Sachs, it was huge. Right?
Yeah,
exactly. So I got to Goldman Sachs. It's funny because most of the people that interviewed me, two of the people that interviewed me, I knew them, and I'd met them at Goldman Sachs for an Insight Day. So again, I just utilized that Insight Day to put me in front of all the other candidates. So yeah, Goldman Sachs rejected me after the final stage. Then obviously Facebook came along. And the funny story is with Facebook, again, I had no interest in working for Facebook. I always wanted to work at Google. Like everyone who knew me knew like for me, I was obsessed with working at Google, and that was sort of like the end goal. So I had applied to Google at least 5 times. I applied to the Top Black Talent twice, Bold Immersion, summer internships, and every single time I got rejected. So the final one that I got rejected for, I remember opening that email and I was like, you know what? I don't even care about Google. I'm going to work for your competitor. So at that moment, I literally, it's crazy. I'm never making it up, man. At that moment, I literally went onto the Facebook page and clicked on the careers page. Okay, what roles do they have? And I saw they had a graduate account manager position open. I was like, oh, this is literally me, because I always wanted to work in a client-facing role in a tech company, and obviously within the sales environment. So I ended up applying, no cover letter, because again, it was just a reaction from Google rejecting me. So I just put it out there, and funnily enough, the next day, the recruiter actually got back.
That's mad.
I was like, oh, wow, maybe we actually have a chance to get here. So obviously I went through the stages, first stage of the interview, second stage, and the final stage was a panel interview, 4 people. I was supposed to fly to Dublin, but I wasn't able to because I had an exam the next day. So it was done virtually. And I prepared so much for that interview. I remember going in and being like, you know what, I'm here now and I have to land this one. So that was pretty, obviously went through the motion, went through all 4 stages of the interview. I kind of knew I got the job because one of the managers that interviewed me messaged me on LinkedIn the next day saying, I hope to see you soon. So I was like, okay, that's a given. Nice. So the next week, the recruiter got back and said, we want to offer you.
That you know that feeling when they tell you got the offer? Best feeling in the world, isn't it?
Oh man, listen, I remember exactly where I was. So I was at university, obviously final year. I just got out of my student accommodation. I was walking to Audi to go for food shopping. She messaged me around 12 p.m. that she wanted to speak to me. So again, I wasn't sure what she wanted to say. I was in an interview with Deutsche Bank when that email came through. I can still remember the details. So when I stepped out at like 6 p.m., I was like, oh, maybe I didn't get it, because why is she not calling me? It's been 6 hours. Then as soon as I started walking to Audi, she gave me a call and gave me that offer. So I was ecstatic when I received it. It was,
it's good. It's
a good feeling. It was big.
I remember when I got my internship offer for Goldman and when I got my grad scheme offer. I was underground, and then I missed the call. So I was like, oh shit. So I came out of the underground, and then he called, and then they were like, yeah, you got the internship offer. I was haps. And then the grad scheme offer was, I was kicking ball with friends. Saw a missed call. Every time I keep missing the phone. And then waited, and they called back. And it's a really good feeling. Conscious of your time, it's 2 minutes to 1. Have you got another meeting, or are you okay to overrun?
No, so we can keep going. It's completely fine.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so then in terms of the process, like the interviews, were there assessment centers, or what was the process like to getting into Facebook? Is it just the standard interviews, or?
So Facebook doesn't do assessment centers. You obviously, once the recruiter gets back to you, I think they sent me some 10-question survey, which was around, are you happy to move to Dublin? Because obviously the downside is you don't get to be in London. You have to move to Dublin. But for me, I didn't mind. So once you answer that and sort of like, why do you want to work for Facebook, that type of stuff, you go to the next stage interview. So the next stage was a role play. And also, some questions around, the nature of the job. What would you do? Typical behavioral questions. So the role play was very new to me because, again, I hadn't done anything like that. So you assume the position of an account manager and you role play typically what you would talk about with, your clients with the interviewer. I think one of the things I always mention is being honest, because recruiting or interviewers sort of pick up on it, because they asked me a certain question and I was completely taken back. And I think that really it contributed to me getting to the next stage. So she asked if I knew a certain Facebook product, and I was like, during the role play, I was like, to be completely honest, I've heard about it, but I don't know. So what I can do is after the call, I can find out for you and
Yeah.
send you that information. And they really value it. So honesty is key, definitely. So obviously after that one, get to the final stage. There's 4 interviews. One is job specific. So it would be about, okay, say a client wanted to shift spend from Facebook to say TV, how would you approach it? That type of question.
Yeah.
Then the second interview, which was very interesting, I literally spoke to the guy for 30 minutes. We spoke about basketball.
Nice.
I'm
Those are
not
the
making
best.
it.
You know it's going good when it's a conversation like that.
It was very conversational. Like we literally spoke about our favorite team when he was going back to LA. And I think that's one of the things that they really appreciate, because the nature of your job essentially is building relationships.
Yeah.
Like you need to be able to connect with anyone and everyone instantly when you meet them. If you're a people person and you can do that, ultimately you can succeed as an account manager.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's targets, there's sales, but that's the most important skill that you need. So being able to connect with your interviewer and recruiter, again, it's important because they are people. The trick is I will hire someone I like. I know we all have biases, sometimes conscious, sometimes unconscious.
Yeah.
But if I can relate to you and I like you and you're coachable, 100% I'm going to take you over someone who might not be as personable. So
Yeah.
we always need to keep that in mind. So yeah, third interview again was very conversational. We literally spoke about projects that I'd been on. Then the final one, it was more of a, data analysis type of stuff. So you'd have a case study, analyze and present back in 10 minutes. So yeah.
Got it. Cool, man. And obviously you aced all of that. You got your job at Facebook, and then so you spent a year there, and now you're at your dream job, which was your dream employer, which was Google from the outset. Like you got to Facebook and then you left, and now you're at Google. Mad, like that you've got both those offers. What made you want to move away from Facebook? I know you always wanted to work at Google, and what's it been like at Google? How was it breaking into Google?
So yeah, again, like I mentioned, I've applied to Google what, at least 6, 7, 8 times. Always got rejected, but again, it's one of the things where people who end up at Google, you probably will interview more than once, twice, like maybe even 3 times, then convert in your third attempt. So again, for me, it was always a dream to work for the company. I sort of align a lot with sort of their values, what they do within the tech space. Like I love tech.
Yeah.
So again, the goal is to work for sort of the big 5 tech firms. So with Google, I applied last year and I got rejected. So this year, I was like, you know what? Well, I got nothing to lose. So there was a lot less pressure going into the interview. And I was like, I just need to be myself. Like I've done this before.
Yeah.
I just need to convince them that I can actually do it.
So you know your stuff, right? You've done a similar role in Facebook for a year. When you know your stuff, it's so easy to go into an interview more confident.
Because yeah, last year I can put my hand up and say that was probably the worst interview that I'd ever had.
Wow.
I was so scared. Normally, I'm not even to say gas up myself, yeah, but
Nice, cool.
I'm good at interviews. Like I'm good at interviews. I can sell myself.
Yeah.
But with the Google one, I completely froze.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way, this is not you, because I'd never done that before. So this year I was a lot more relaxed. I was like, I'm going to take it step by step.
Yeah.
I applied for the role. I felt like I wasn't qualified for it because it was quite a jump in terms of like seniority. But I was like, hey, I got nothing to lose. For me, if something doesn't make me nervous, I'm not going to go for it. So obviously, recruiter got back, went through the first stage, the second stage, the third stage, then the fourth stage. So yeah, you go through quite a few stages to get to Google. I think the final one was the one I was most nervous about because I had no control over the outcome. Yeah. So with the final one, after obviously you have the panel interview, then they decide, okay, we want to progress with this guy.
Yeah.
They complete a packet and they send it over to California. then you have a panel of experts who sort of sit together and discuss if they want to actually offer you.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
hard because you're present in the room. So there's only so much you can do. So I think I was very nervous with that one, but fortunately I managed to sort of get through it. So yeah, to your second question, it's been great being here. Obviously, it's very tricky and different because I had to onboard virtually.
Mm,
Um, I still haven't met my team in person.
mm.
So all of those factors sort of contribute to sort of your experience. But I think it's been great nonetheless because I had a few friends at Google who I knew. So everyone has been super supportive. Everyone is super friendly. So yeah, it's been great, and I'm definitely enjoying being here.
Mm. Wow, wow. And so you're based in London now. I know Google are actually then building their future new headquarters, which is going to be in King's
Um,
Cross. That building site looks massive, and I've seen the plans for it. It looks like a very impressive building. Um, but yeah, I mean that's a really like impressive story and good insight for I'm sure a lot of people that will be viewing this video because oftentimes we
um,
hear about breaking into banking and consulting, but it's nice to kind of have that insight into tech companies, big brands such as Facebook and Google. For
yeah.
students,
I,
sorry, yeah, go on, go on.
Now, I think one of the myths that people normally have that and try to debunk, you don't need technical skills to work in tech.
Mm,
Obviously, I know the conversation these days around coding, software engineering, user experience, user interface. You don't need it. I think the biggest thing is being true to yourself and being passionate about the industry because most of the roles I can say within the tech space are actually non-technical.
yeah,
So you do not need a computer science degree as well to break into tech.
that's that's
That's just a thing to say.
That's a very good point because you need salespeople, you need marketing people, you need operational people, so on and so forth.
Mm.
And a lot of students and graduates completely forget about that. So yeah. Um, to wrap up, what advice would you give to current students and graduates who are interested in kind of breaking into the world of tech? Um, yeah.
I mean, I think I'll take the question from a sort of general approach and tech as well. From a general sort of advice, one thing I'm always big on is trying to get as much experience as possible. One thing that you actually said, which I picked on, and I normally tell people,
Yeah.
is you mentioned that your degree only takes out one line on your CV. What
Yeah.
does the 2021 line say? And I think that's so big. A lot of people don't realize because in the past, yeah, you could come out with a degree and have a job lined up ready. The market is super competitive right now,
Yeah.
and you don't want to put yourself in a position where you come out of university and you realize you don't have enough experience to compete for the roles that you want to go for. So I'm not even talking about necessarily just like internships or actual like work. If you can, work in your university's student union, do it. If you used to play football or play basketball at high school and you were great at it, when you go to university, don't now think I'm grown and I'm too mature to do these things. Like they add up. At the end of the day, these companies want to hire people who are not just one thing. They don't want to hire someone who's just great at books. Like you need to be multifaceted. So they look for they look at people holistically rather than just you do one thing. So yeah, if you're great at things that you were at high school, whether it's running, whether it's sports, track, do it. Another thing is mindset that I have conversation with students about. I was unfortunate going to university because I did not get student finance. So it meant my parents had to sort of pay my fees. And I think for me, I'm really thankful. But it's a switch of mentality. I look at it the same way I would look at someone giving me 9K to invest in my business. If I gave anyone 9K for 3 years to invest in their business, ultimately you want to return on investment. That's how it works. It's ROI. It's investment. That's what we look at. So at the same time, I think it's important when you're going to university to also approach it that way and understand that 9K, whilst it's not coming directly from your account, you always have to sort of pay back. So try and maximize your university experience as much as you can.
Yeah.
That means, I know a lot of people complain about obviously 9K just to go and read presentation and slides and PowerPoint. It's true, I get you, but try and get as much out of that university experience as you can. If it means you're constantly in a careers route, do it. Just try and maximize your experience, and trust me, it's going to pay off. In terms of tech, I'll definitely say obviously working in tech allows you, once you have, the way the tech industry is, once you have experience in that industry at any company at all, you can leverage it for other companies. So I'd say if you know you're very passionate about technology, definitely try and find a role in the tech space. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a big five, because again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So you're always going to get there. Also, read up widely about tech news. I think that's massive and that's very important. When I go into interviews, I'm so knowledgeable about everything going on in the tech industry.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking to a manager, like these are conversations I can have. Like I remember interviewing at Workday, and they recently acquired one of the fintech companies, and I was able to literally explain to him how they are going to amalgamate Workday and the new company that they got, even though they hadn't thought about it. So being knowledgeable about just industry trends, tech a lot, I think plays a huge part. So yeah, that's the two main things I'd say. And also be focused on self-development. Like Google and Facebook, they don't hire like some crazy genius people. They just hire people who will positively contribute to the culture. So if you're great like yourself, you're great when it comes to mentoring students. They understand once we get Afzal in, this is something that he could definitely do, which will make our company look great. So find your needs and work on it as well. And yeah, eventually everything will fall in place.
I think that all of that is solid advice, and you know, those who take it on board, I'm sure will get far. One thing also I wanted to add on the back of your journey is, you know how, you know, to get you got the Facebook offer and it was in Dublin, not in London. You were open-minded enough to go and pursue that, and it's led you back to, you know, your dream company, Google, in London. And so a lot of students shouldn't be put off by roles outside of London, because a lot of the big companies have offices further out, and you know, it's always good to just get your foot in and then see where it takes you.
100%. I think it's important. Again, that's something I always mention. Like short-term sacrifices for long-term gains, short-term sacrifices for long-term success. It makes so much sense. A lot of people don't want to sacrifice in the short term, but that means obviously it might be detrimental to any future opportunities that you might get. So be as open-minded as possible. Dublin in Ireland literally has all the tech companies. It's basically the European Silicon Valley. I'm talking from Airbnb, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn. Talk about all the tech companies you can think about. So understand, especially with your career, I know people sort of get caught up with the brand names and the bigger names. Like sometimes it's about understanding this is what I want to get to. And in the short term, I need to work somewhere which might provide me with experience in order for me to get the bigger brand name. So don't be overly obsessed with, oh, my friend got to work at Goldman Sachs. I'm working at a boutique investment bank, because the way career works is, again, it's a marathon. Eventually, you're going to get there. So don't worry about when that happens. Just make sure you're diligent. Always leverage and maximize any experience you have, because that will lead to your next experience too.
Amazing, amazing. Conscious, we've done 40 minutes, 45 minutes. It's gone by so quick. And yeah, I just want to obviously give you the opportunity. If there's anything you want to shout out, happy to feel free to shout it out now. If there's anything you're working on, or anything you want any of the viewers to go and check out, any projects or anything, if you do have any, I'm happy to also link it in the video description below. So if you have anything.
I think in terms of project, definitely something I'm thinking about, but I want to sort of focus on my core role. So right now, there's nothing that I'm actually working on, but there are a few things that might be in the pipeline. So at any time or when it happens, I'll be more than happy to sort of share it.
Amazing, amazing. And for viewers, David is a mentor on the Simply app. So if you want to reach out to him, You can book him to find out more about how he broke into the various roles and careers. Definitely check out the Simply app. I'll link it in the description below as well. Bro, it's been lovely catching up. Hopefully when COVID and all that settles down, we'll catch up properly.
Definitely.
But yeah, man, I just want to say thank you for your time. A lot of people are gonna find this video useful, so thank you, man.
I appreciate it as well. I mean, what you're doing is massive. So anything to contribute to it, and obviously you giving me the platform to talk about my own journey, like I really appreciate it too.
Love, man. Nice one. I'll catch you soon, yeah?
Definitely, bro.
Take care. Enjoy the rest of your trip as well, man.
Thanks a lot, man. Bye.
Peace, bro. See ya. Bye.
Bye.